Hey guys, welcome back. This is actually going to be our first official Sports with Mono y Mono. Steve and Jim, and welcome aboard.
Welcome, everybody.
So, we got a lot to talk about here. So, we're going to start off with some baseball stuff and a notable passing in Major League Baseball, Don Newcomb, 92?
92 years old.
Yeah.
And I think we want to go, when we go forward, I think part of our show is always going to be recognize some of the baseball icons of years past and
Or in any sport.
right, or any sport. And I think Don Newcomb falls in that category.
Certainly.
We were looking him up. First thing that stood out is he's not in the Hall of Fame. I kind of thought maybe he would be off the top of my head, but he's not. But that certainly doesn't diminish this guy's career. He had a great career. We were just looking that up. He's one of two pitchers to win Rookie of the Year, Cy Young,
An MVP.
and MVP.
Yep.
And the second pitcher to do that took decades and decades, and it was very recently, actually, 2011. Justin Verlander is the second pitcher to have those three
Right.
on his resume. And so Newcomb, we just wanted to honor him. He won the title, part of the Boys of Summer, Brooklyn Dodgers, 1955 season. He was instrumental in that.
And bring up some very interesting fact about the Bobby Thompson game because we were just talking about it, Steve. So bring
Right.
that up.
So 1951, even though we weren't born, we were still at that game. Like 3 million other people claimed to be at that game at the Polo Grounds, which probably held 35,000 maybe,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
But a little distinction on Don Newcomb was he pitched well in that game, and he got relieved. And I think it was in the bottom of the ninth. And of course, Ralph Branca became very famous for giving up the Bobby Thompson home run. But Newcomb pitched a great game, and there's a little distinction there for Don Newcomb.
But he had a great career, actually.
did.
He did. And he missed 2 years, of course, with just about a lot of other people, Teddy Baseball and so forth, military service. But, overall.
And we always thank those who have served our military. We always want to acknowledge that and thank you, Don, for your 2 years of service. He was in the Korean War. Also, he was a very good hitter, too. We looked that up. For a pitcher, he had a career 271 batting average and hit a lot of home runs, too, for a pitcher. So, he had a great life. He became an ambassador for the Dodgers, and I think the Dodgers have announced, rightfully so, they're going to wear a patch on their uniform this year.
Number 36, yes.
Yeah, and he's, again, he lived to the ripe old age in 92. And I think, we wanted to start the show with just a little tribute to Don Newcomb to all our baseball fans out there.
And when you think about it, he came after Jackie Robinson, who was, of course, the pioneer and so forth. But, it's certainly worth mentioning somebody of that prominence in Major League Baseball history and so forth. And, like I said, we would be remiss if we didn't bring him up.
Right.
And,
So,
and like Steve said, when somebody like that, kind of a prominent figure in sports and so forth, it's certainly worth mentioning. And I think it's cool that the Dodgers are going to wear that patch. Yankees wore it for Yogi and Mickey Mantle and so forth. And
well, we're black band guys, right? So for the Yankees, just do it a little differently. They like to wear the black band, and unfortunately, in our career, we've seen too many Yankees and Thurman Munson, obviously, to the Monahans. Thurman was our guy, and
Yep.
so that was
and when it comes to that kind of stuff,
tragic.
wearing numbers and so forth, is one thing I thought I noticed the other day was, a prominent figure in the NFL who passed away was George Halas, and the Bears still wear his initials on that uniform as part of that uniform.
Yeah, I certainly do.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
So anyway, so let's just move on. Of course, we had a big signing in Major League Baseball with Machado going to the Padres. You know, my feeling all along was, you know, he wasn't going to the Yankees, which, whew, thank you, he didn't. But I actually thought he was going to the Chicago White Sox. So that, like I said, I don't know. I thought the White Sox had that kind of money and they were going to offer him that kind of money, but I don't think it sounds like they weren't going to offer him $300 million.
No, they were. You know, for a couple weeks we had predicted, and like you know what was reported out there, the tea leaves, where the White Sox and Phillies seemed to be the two front runners. However, if you look at what the White Sox offered, they offered, I want to say,
Seven?
no, yeah, but they offered over 250, and with all these incentives, actually, the value of their contract would have been maybe more than the 300 he signed. However, what we know about Manny Machado is I don't think he's an incentive-laden guy based on the fact that he won't hustle down the first base line. Don't get me wrong, the guy is a solid ball player. And did anybody see San Diego coming out of nowhere for this? I'm going to say no. However, being that he signed with San Diego, I did a little research, and the new ownership of the Padres, who took over a couple years ago, are opening the checkbooks. And, you know, a little fact is San Diego's never won a major sports championship ever. Now that the Chargers are gone, these two owners, in the top of my head, I can't name them. However, look for San Diego to, you know, spend a lot of money. Another little interesting fact: they signed Hosmer last year to a big $122 million.
That's a lot of money for that guy.
Totally, and now they're paying Machado $300.
Yeah.
And there was a little fact on that about, I think for the past 26 years or something, the value of these two contracts far surpasses what the Padres' payroll has been.
Yeah, over the past 20 years. Yeah.
Right. So,
but that kind of money to me is insane. And listen, he's a great ball player, but is he the best player in Major League Baseball? I know when Rodriguez signed that contract, he was the best player in baseball.
So he
no
now
question, and that was 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It was unheard of at the time.
Right. So he's got now the distinction as the largest free agent contract ever doled out
in American sports history,
right.
I think. So.
I mean, some people may get confused that Stanton's making more money, but Stanton was, already, signed by the Marlins, playing for the Marlins, was given that extension, right? So the value. When you look at it, it's 325. However, Manny being a free agent, just wanted to make that distinction that, in fact, it is. It's probably the largest. But now that that bar has been set, it might only be a couple more days because Harper has, I believe, Boras is his agent, and Scott Boras. Don't be surprised now if Harper gets 305 or something, as long as it's $1 more than Harper's value.
And I happen to think Harper is a better player. So I mean, I think if one of the two guys deserved that kind of money, it was Harper. He kind of hustles. He plays every day.
He's 26 years old. Machado's 26, and you and I just talked before the show. Sounds like that the Phillies are going to step up. I think the owner flew out to Vegas, and I believe they're meeting now. I really don't see any other players for Harper at this point, and it's probably imminent that he's going to sign.
Yeah.
He's going to sign for large dough.
Outrageous money for a guy that doesn't run down the first base line on a ground ball up to me. I'm sorry.
I'm with you. And listen, they're stuck now with him for a long time.
And you know what? It's largest contract in sports history. But I was wondering because some of these other guys, like Beckham, and these guys got $90 million guaranteed. I don't know if baseball's guaranteed. Like,
Yeah, I don't.
I mean, I'm sure there was a clause. Boros is no dummy. I mean,
Yeah.
but
I mean, then you're going international, but I think we're trying to stay within the four major sports that our audience really follows. But I wouldn't be surprised like a Ronaldo. So when a Ronaldo is in the news, has to pay a $21 million tax bill and
those soccer
like
guys,
this.
those soccer guys get ridiculous money.
Ridiculous money. Right.
That's because it's the most popular sport in the world.
Right.
I mean, so.
So, so we wanted to bring up a little baseball chatter here. Spring training's in full
Underway.
swing. I think today is the first games, if I'm not mistaken, the Yankees and Red Sox. The buses will be going back and forth between Tampa and all over, the state of Florida.
But Steve and I were just talking, or at least I brought it up because I was, I saw that already, a couple of guys that are, feeling some potential injuries, and Clayton Kershaw. I mean, one of the best players and pitchers in baseball, but I always said he's got such an unorthodox delivery that, how could it not wear on his arm like that? And I don't know. Did they just sign him to the big deal, or
A couple of years ago, he got like a 3-year extension, well deserved. I mean, the guy.
It might have been after the World Series he
Right.
got the extension.
But
right?
listen, Clayton still hasn't brought the Dodgers to the promised land. He's gotten them there. However,
That would secure his legacy if he does.
right. But I think it's safe to say Kershaw's numbers have been just so ridiculous that he's on his way to the Hall of Fame. at
No
some
question
point.
about it.
No question.
But I tend to worry when I start. He's got soreness in his arm already.
Right.
We haven't even played the first spring training game yet.
Right. So spring training obviously takes place in Arizona and Florida. So being that we're talking about the state of Florida, let's transition to what broke on the news yesterday in the state of Florida.
Shocking.
You have Deflategate, you got Spygate, and now there is Tailgate. So let's talk about a 77-year-old billionaire owner worth $6 billion walking into a strip mall, not once, but apparently twice,
Yep.
and getting his jollies off. What do you make of this? I mean,
Well, listen. First of all, I mean, obviously, the Florida police thought long and hard before they came out with this guy. I mean, because he's that prominent of a businessman, and of course, the representative of the NFL, probably the most powerful owner in the NFL.
he's up there.
And he gets caught in this bear trap. To me, it's hard to believe. Of course, we'll give the presumption of innocence.
Of course, on this show, we don't want to rush to judgment. However, this is some bad PR for the defending Super Bowl champions, not even 2-3 weeks after their 6th Super Bowl.
Horrible publicity.
But I tell you, the jokes really have been flying. The material's going to be endless. The first thing I thought of for our Seinfeld fans was Morty Seinfeld. My wallet's gone! My wallet's gone!
Yep.
And I could go on and on with some of the stuff I've heard. I don't even know what to make of it, to be honest. I don't know what he is thinking. And then he's going to come up with some stupid defense. And
Well, of course, he's pronouncing his innocence, and all of this is nonsense. But I mean, like I said, before the police filed it and said we're going to go public with this, he had to. If they got videotape
they got him
of
on
him,
video, not once but twice. And then here's the other thing. So, ESPN's reporting, Adam Schefter, obviously, our football fans know he's probably the most diligent reporter out there.
yeah, top insider.
But he dropped a little tea leaf saying this isn't over, that, this could be like the Mitchell report in baseball, that there's going to be a lot of names. I'm hearing 150 names.
Up to 200, actually. Yeah.
And I'm and he made the quote that Kraft is not the biggest name, quote unquote, that's going to come out. So this is going to be a lot of silly material. And, it's part of the sports world. And
A great line with the tailgate. I mean, and I think our fans know what we're talking about when it comes to tail. But brilliant line. Brilliant line. If the post rips us off, we got copyright infringement here.
Well,
No.
also, let me just tell you, some of you know I went to Boston University, so trust me, the banter back and forth with the New England faithful has been in full swing. But Kraft is, again, he's just going to be the subject of a lot of jokes, and it's just gonna really, it puts a stain on his reputation.
Oh,
You really,
it tarnishes it
I don't know what
forever.
else. I don't even know what else to say at this point.
Even to be implicated in something like this, even if he gets exonerated or they, that's really wasn't him in the massage parlor.
Right, but and getting back to I guess what we just discussed is you're worth $6 billion, and you are going to walk into this massage parlor
In a strip mall.
in Jupiter, Florida.
Goodness
I
gracious.
think all our audience listening is shaking their heads right now too, saying, "What are you thinking? What are you thinking?"
I mean, people are always following you around when you're that public a figure. I mean, don't you get that
Right,
now?
and this
I mean,
isn't like a guy that shies away from the spotlight either. Again, you just won the Super Bowl six. He's out there front and center, face of the franchise. I don't get it. We could go on and on and on with this, but
it was certainly worth mentioning because it was that kind of shocking thing. When I first saw it, I thought it was just some made up publicity stunt. I said that's impossible.
right.
A guy of this prominence could no way be involved in a strip mall, massage parlor, sting. But
Yeah, so then again, one of my New England friends reached out and he asked the question. He said, "So does this taint the Super Bowl victory?" And I automatically
Absolutely
said,
not.
"Absolutely not. There's no bearing on what happened on the field.
Absolutely
and,
not.
And the X's and O's and everything else. Let's separate those two. However, it's uncanny with New England, with the scandals that just don't seem to end up there. And I'm not just singling out New England, right? I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan for the record, and trust me, there's been plenty of
yeah, you've had
material.
your share. You've had your share of controversy.
So for the record, there, However, unfortunately, New England's is going to be in the spotlight, and Kraft particularly.
But I agree with you
gonna cover
100%. In no way, shape, or form does this diminish the record and the performance of the New England Patriots players and so forth. And
I'm just going
from
to
a
throw it
football
out there. If
perspective.
that, let's guess one big name, and who are we thinking? Unless it's Tom Brady, then it's never going to end. This is just going to be nonstop. But
Well, we have some speculation, but you know what? Let's hold off on that.
right,
For the
I'm
time
not
being.
saying it's Tom Brady, but when Shefty says there's a name bigger than Kraft, it fuels the fire of speculation and water cooler talk.
Right, but I'm going to bet 50 cents it's not Tom Brady.
I
you
am
know.
too. I am too. But I don't think we could have let this story go without mentioning it on today's show.
I have somebody I hope it is, actually.
I think
But,
we all do.
but we'll go into that another time.
Okay.
So that's the NFL thing. But listen, I just wanted to bring this up because we were talking about this Le'Veon Bell and Brown. I love it that the Steelers are just saying, hit the road. I mean, I know it's going to sting them in the pocket and so forth with this, they call it dead money kind of thing. But you know what? You want to sit down and not play? We offered you $14 million last year, and you've thumbed your nose at it. Hey, good riddance.
Good riddance, and it's not the first time the Steelers have played hardball with their players.
And I know there's a lot of speculation about where these guys are going, and the fact that no way is Pittsburgh going to trade him to the AFC. Certainly not in the division, and
No,
that's their right to.
Right.
But I bet you this Bell ends up with the Jets.
I'm going to say the Jets, too, just because they have so much money. It's such a glaring need for them. It's the Jets. I wouldn't touch Le'Veon Bell with a 10-foot pole. You know why? Because I don't trust him.
Or Brown.
Or Brown.
I wouldn't touch either
Great,
one of them.
listen, great football players. They most certainly are, but I think as an NFL GM or an owner and for the fan base, listen, you need to have a culture. And it goes back to New England again, okay? They bring in guys that do their job, are not head cases, and if they are a head case,
They're gone.
Out the door you go. So the Jets, I'm just going to say caveat emptor, buyer beware. You're going to have to give off a lot of money. You have a lot of room on the cap now. Just spend it wisely. But I can see the Jets signing Bell, but I'm not on board with it personally.
Me either.
That's my opinion.
And like I said, there's still a lot of speculation about Beckham and the Giants and so forth about them trading him. And like I said, from a talent perspective, of course, he's awesome and so forth. But he has that kind of Brown impact on a team. Like he's such a distraction. It overshines his on field performance. And like I said, we're ex football players, so we get it. Chemistry in a locker room is important. And when you turn on your teammates and just leave them hanging like that, good call on the Brady bunch, caveat emptor right there. Pretty good.
But my opinion on Beckham is if they're going to do it, they need to do it now because his value. I don't think they should have signed him to that dough. I think he actually had more value right before last year. But if they're going to trade him, they're going to have to do it now, recoup a first round or whatever. They're going to have to get, obviously, the value for him. But I just think he is a me guy. And I wouldn't be surprised if Gettleman is shopping him. But it'll all depend on the offer that they get.
Yep.
And then they go from there. But I'm not going to be surprised.
Like I said, the Giants, like I said, they're kind of a traditional team. I remember Strahan held out and for that kind of money, and they ultimately signed him, which turned out to be a good move. But other guys like this Landon Collins cleaned out his locker room.
Goodbye.
Hit the road.
But here's the other point. Saquon Barkley is the face of the franchise now. So
no
they've
question.
gone to the running game because of who he is. And don't think OBJ is not sitting there.
That the limelight has been moved off him onto Barkley.
Right. And with his past behavior, I just think, and now he has his money, he is a potential just a disruption for the rest of his Giant career. So
I agree.
I'm of the opinion, bye-bye.
Yep, I agree.
Get the value you can while you can.
And there's no question, this kid Barkley, he's a solid guy. I hope he stays that kind of guy. And
Role model type of kid.
Big time.
Huge. Big fan.
All right, so listen, there was a big game in the NCAA the other day. Obviously, it was the Duke North Carolina, and I think it was a surprise to everybody that North Carolina went into Cameron Indoor and really took it to them. Duke was never in the game, and I know, let's touch on, what the marquee moment was Sneakergate.
Well, 36 seconds into the game.
And have you ever seen a sneaker blow out like that?
Well, here, let me just say this. Again, it's been a couple days since the incident. So Zion apparently is a large man. He's 6'9". I got to peg him at 250, 260. He's a physical freak, right?
He's a beast.
So what I heard, and I'm not defending Nike because I have my issues with Nike, but from what I heard, Zion's not the type of kid that would change his sneaker like they all do every week or whatever, because you get all these sneakers. Apparently he wears he's worn the same sneaker probably from the first practice at Duke to last Wednesday. So I'm just throwing that out there, that you're 6'9" and 260.
For a $300 pair of sneakers,
I wear Triple E shoes, so believe me, I've blown out of some of my shoes over the years.
Right, but these weren't Payless shoes.
Right. So the point is, bad PR for Nike. Their stock actually took a little hit right after this incident.
Right, but these NBA guys they're all just as big as him,
sure.
And but the whole thing. I don't know. Maybe he did slip. It was moisture on the court, whatever. And this opens up a whole new Pandora's box with this whole one and done thing. Right. And now people are saying you don't need to play. You don't need to play.
Right.
Why bother? You got $500 million right in front of you. Right. So,
but
he's a good kid, and I think I think Duke and Krzyzewski and this. He seems like more of a team player than not just the future number one pick.
Yeah. I've been impressed with this kid. Excuse me. I am not down with this stopping playing, and I get both sides of the argument. This just started in college football only a couple of years ago. I think Christian McCaffrey is probably one of the more prominent names.
Bosa did it. Right?
Bosa just did it at Ohio State. but I'm going to go on record right now. Zion has a mild sprain. They'll probably sit him out today against Syracuse. Would probably be the most prudent thing to do.
Yep.
The tournament is only a couple weeks away. They're going to make sure he's healthy. I'm going to go 100% on this.
He's playing.
This kid is playing. There's no question. He's a one and done. We know that. But I think he's got the character makeup, and I think he's not going to let his teammates down. It's
Agreed.
about playing basketball. It's about playing the sport. I also get the other argument in certain cases, to protect the investment and provide for your family. But I think we're on both agreeing on
But there's something about playing for Duke and the legacy
Sure.
and wanting to win. And, he goes out, plays 1 year in college basketball, and right, he's the number one topic in college basketball.
He
and
is.
to win a national championship and then hit the road, legacy
Cemented.
secured.
Correct. Yeah.
Good stuff. But how about you? How impressed were you with North Carolina? I mean, to come in there, whether Zion was in there or not.
Yeah.
I mean, Duke was throwing up 3-pointers. They weren't even close. I mean, you want to talk about Brick City? Oh my God! That was,
Well, I think.
and tomorrow they could nail 25 out of 35.
Right, but they listen. They never recovered from Zion leaving the game. I mean, I think it was a mental thing, right? Even though it was at Cameron,
Yep.
and I think you and I had spoken off air. We talked about it briefly. Like Duke, North Carolina, it ranks up there with the best sports rivalries
Of all time.
of all time.
No question.
And you know why? I think it's because they're competitive. I think Duke and North Carolina basketball, except, when Dean retired in the Guthridge years and Matt Doherty failed experiment, that aside, I just think consistently, and also, of course, we throw up Ohio State, Michigan, but
Football.
it's been tilted, obviously, in Ohio State's favor for the last 8-9 years.
And they're only 7 miles away from each other,
Right,
which
Tobacco
is
Road, right? So just wanted to throw that out there. And again, they're going to play each other again, ACC championship, and you never know.
And look, we're getting
They may
down to
play
the
in
wire.
tournament too.
And there's only 4 or 5 regular season games left, and then guess what we got?
March Madness.
March Madness, which
We
in
can't
sports,
wait.
I mean, how great is that? I mean,
Exactly.
you get no-name teams that come in, and
Yeah.
a little early. We'll talk next week about our possible surprises and so forth.
Right.
I think one of the biggest surprises in college basketball is University of Buffalo.
Okay.
I mean, they certainly don't play an ACC schedule, but they're pretty impressive. I watched them last night. They're pretty good.
Sure. All over the country, there's these small schools that have great seasons, and then if they can make the dance. We've seen the biggest upsets in the history of college basketball.
Oh, but it's
That's what
just
about.
one game after another, exciting, buzzer beaters, the whole thing. It's just nothing better in sports than. I think it ranks up there with the World Series and Super Bowl kind of thing.
Yeah.
And whether you're even a basketball fan or not, you throw $10 in a pool and you got something going on, right? Everybody does a bracket, right?
That's right. And Muriel or Shirley is going to win the bracket around that water cooler. So we're looking forward to March Madness, and obviously we'll cover that as the tournament approaches.
Yep. Good
And
stuff.
I just wanted to transition real quick on basketball. For our local fans, the Bergen County Jamboree final was last night.
Which we talked about last week.
We did,
Down to the Final Four.
Yeah, so it turns out Bergen Catholic had a great performance and beat up Don Bosco. Bosco was the 2-time defending champ. But like I mentioned, I attended the Jamboree. I saw a couple weeks of it, and then I'll just say flat out, I thought Bergen Catholic was the best team in the tournament. And they showed it last night, and their 2 big horses and another senior, this kid Doug Eddert, had a great game for the Crusaders, and just a shout out to them. Congratulations.
Yep.
It's a big win for them and the program.
And listen, just for the record, I mean, this is New Jersey basketball and so forth, but, it's where we're from and so forth, and we know, they got these kind of county or township tournaments across the country and so forth.
Sure.
So, once we start, taking some phone calls and so forth, we'd love to hear you chime in and say, hey, what about us out here? We're in Texas. We're in California.
Exactly.
That kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good mention. So listen, it's the end of our show here, but again, before we go out, we want to make sure we, of course, acknowledge our sponsors: Lynch Toyota of Manchester, Connecticut, Harley Davidson of Utica, and De Filippi's Bakery up in Monticello. And again, offer still stands. You go to the bakery and get the blueberry pie because it's as good as you get.
Right.
You get 10% off.
Right.
Just mention sports with Mono and Mono, and enjoy your pastries and cannolis and whatever you got.
Absolutely.
So we got good stuff here. This was some interesting stuff. We got a lot of follow up to do on our next show. And Steve, again, this is kind of our official sports with Mono and Mono going forward, and we look to expand it. Look, like I said, look to get more guests and so forth. And
Yep.
we really appreciate our audience listening. We love the feedback. And we'll advertise next week, what our actual email address is going to be, and we're setting up Instagram and Facebook and
We'll
all
be
that
on
stuff.
social media, and we look forward to having exchanges with our audience, and we appreciate the following, and we just look forward to getting off the ground and covering sports and having fun doing it.
Great. Well, listen, thanks again for joining us, and Steve, I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Jim.
Have a good week, everybody,
Have a
and
great weekend.
we'll talk to you next week.
Adios. Bye-bye.